Well, ever since the drawbridge went up on the Isle of Man, there's been various cases of people getting caught in the system. And I think nothing is more tragic than what we're going to hear from now. Tim Killen joins us. Tim, you can tell the story. I mean, very sad about your mother and the situation that you're in. And at the minute, I should point out, you're in the UK, aren't you, trying to get back here?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I'm here in the UK, and really looking for any support I can receive, to get back to the Isle of Man, following the tragic death of my mother. 3 weeks ago, we were advised that my mum had been diagnosed with terminal cancer. The hospital had actually planned for her to start chemotherapy on Thursday last week. And we hoped that would assist her to have, an extension of life for a further sort of 12 to 18 months. But very sadly, my mum's condition deteriorated very quickly following the diagnosis, and she passed away on Tuesday, the 12th of May, in Nobles Hospital.
And with all the business with the virus going on, did that affect any of that care that she was getting here on the island?
Yes, I did visit the island at the beginning of March when she initially went in for diagnosis. But unfortunately, due to the COVID situation, they were unable to provide any care at that time. So Mum was sent home with pain relief and obviously with support from the hospice. And it was only recently, over the last week or two, I think when the hospitals have opened up, that there was a further then discussion of, trying to get people back in and to take a sort of course of chemo. But unfortunately, I think it was just too late.
Now, the reason you started a campaign and one of those petitions is that you can't get yourself back to the Isle of Man. You've gone through the procedure, you've asked a dispensation. Tell us what's going on. Why can't you get back?
Well, I'd like to start by saying, although I'm not a Manx resident, I'm Manx at heart. I was born and raised on the Isle of Man. I lived in Castletown for most of my life. And, I truly, see myself as a Manx person. So, once we realised that, my mum's condition was getting worse, last Tuesday, I gave a call to Graham Crageen, who's my dad's MHK, to see if he could support in the consideration, of me travelling to the island in order to, number one, provide care and support to my elderly father, and also, in preparation to attend the funeral. What I will say was Graham was very supportive. He took my call and he dealt with my request, and then he passed me on to the Chief Secretary, Will Greenhow. And then over the next 72 hours, which was very tough actually, because it was during that period that my mum passed away. I had various emails with Will Greenhow, David Ashford, and I think their teams. But ultimately, the decision and confirmation came back on Friday that I would not be considered, to be allowed to travel to the island, under compassionate exemption reasons.
And this is to support your father and for the funeral.
Yes.
I mean, are you at high risk? I mean, give us some background. What do you do? Are you going out exposing yourself potentially to the virus? I mean, was there any reasons given, even if you could?
There were no justifications given, and I think and I've actually been at home for the last 8 weeks, as most of us have, in the British Isles, adhering to the suggestions of the medical experts and the government. I respect that the island has got, strong legislation in place to support its residents through this tough period. But I also think, aside from COVID, there's a lot of other people who need support and would benefit from having family members able to travel under the restrictions in self-isolation that would need to be put in place in order to provide the support and care that is needed for those people, such as my father, and even take away, I think, some of the pressure from the Manx Health Service with key workers not being needed. Because if I was able to travel, self-isolate, and then be able to support my father, and we can plan the funeral, he won't need the care that he does need at the moment, from the health service.
So make this quite clear. You're quite prepared to take whatever they say on board about self-isolating, wearing a mask, even whatever. You would do that just to be able to be at the funeral and to support your father.
Yeah, so far we've not had any telephone discussions or any conversations around why the decision has been not granted. So if there are safety and health restrictions to be put in place, which I fully understand, I will be happy with those. I'll comply with them, because my my priority is, the health and, the safety, both mentally and physically, of my father. So, that's what I want to do, and I will adhere to any restrictions that the government can put in place. I'd just like to have a conversation with them so that we can understand potentially how we can work together and move forward.
And that's what I'm failing to get. I mean, it seems like a phone call, and people appreciate your situation. And you've come to the media now because that's the sort of next step, and you've got a petition about this going. Do you think it can be sorted out?
I hope that through the dialogue that we're having today, and through the petition and the support that we've had from family and friends, both on the island and and overseas, to raise the awareness of this, that it will at least allow the Manx government and myself and probably many other people who are in a similar situation to either return to the island or to travel away, so that we can start to understand how can we manage that risk together. How can we come up with a solution which doesn't compromise safety in the Isle of Man, but also supports the mental and physical well-being of those people that need one-to-one support at this moment in time. And I'd just like to have that conversation. I'm very open in order to do it at any time, and really looking for any support that we can get, both on our petition, which is change.org/Killen family, so that we can try and get some resolution and closure on this, which is fundamentally a very stressful time.
Sorry, you may be the first that's had this problem, but you certainly probably won't be the last. This is something that needs to be addressed, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the reason we're talking today is not purely to do with the very tragic loss that we're facing within our family. I do believe, and especially from speaking to the governor's office on Saturday, that there are other people who have been in this situation or who are in this situation today that would benefit from having access and dialogue with the government to see how a solution can be reached, and working together, as Manx people, in order to look after, after our own families and friends.